So basically, in general, it's like one of my favorite shows. But when it came to this American adaptation, I feel it was horribly misguided on many levels. Like, if I had never seen it or heard about it, I feel that it would be very confusing just because they kind of tweak a lot of elements to their own, interpretation of it. Since it's not structured, I guess, there's no rules. So, unlike the books, the rules in the book, they kind of just make up these rules as they go along. So even if you've never seen it before and this is your first time watching it, you'll still be a little bit confused as what works, what doesn't work, what can he do, what can Ryuk do, It doesn't make any sense on any level to me.
It seems to borrow a lot from different types of movies and just puts it in one big alphabet soup of a mess. You've got a lot of 90s film tropes that are in play. You've got the standard bully. You've got the fact that they're in high school. You've got a girlfriend. They angst. They kill people. All 90s film stuff. You have some horror film elements too, with like some Final Destination thrown in. And let's try and kill these guys in as bloody of a way as possible since we've got the freedom to do it. And in it, we're also going to throw some random high school romance where we have this guy who can't control his hormones and this girl who's kind of weird. And all together, it just doesn't feel like it's one work so much as it's borrowing from other things in order to maximize its success. So now we're moving into what I feel is one of the biggest disappointments of the movie, which is the actual rules of the Death Note. As you guys know, when you read the manga, rules are introduced a chapter at a time, with a few rules being added so that you get a sense of what the Death Note is about. Here, they just feel like they've been pulled out randomly in order to serve the plot. Like, oh, we're going to make this rule. We're going to make this rule. We're just going to do this. Yeah, whatever. And they don't even necessarily follow their own rules to a T. Or they just make it vague enough so that they can make the story go ooga booga,
I am justice! I protect the innocent and those who fear evil! I'm the one who will become the god of a new world that everyone desires! All those who would oppose that god, they are the ones who are truly evil!
Why is Light a pussy?
The fact that I already knew from the beginning that his character was going to suck because they named him Light Turner instead of Light Yagami.
Also, Light's character is just horribly misguided from the get-go. He does look like someone who hasn't had sleep in...
yes,
versus the actual Light, who was very composed, very clean looking, he had his stuff together. He was very withdrawn, I guess, in a sense, because he was so bored himself. That was the thing that kind of gave both Ryuk and Light common ground. They were both bored within their own respects.
Where's this guy's brain besides his pants?
Yeah, there was no... Yeah, Light was always methodical with what he did and who he revealed and what he was doing too. This one was just like, hey... I have a Death Note. Anyone want to see me kill someone with it?
Yeah.
Right.
I think they grounded him too much with the teenager side of things to the point where he lost his edge as some kind of, quiet, maniacal, game of chess that they all play.
Yeah. When did he get a conscience all of a sudden?
Light never had that.
Light never had that in the manga. And that was such a joy to, read into and just be like, what's he going to do next?
Yeah.
Here he's, regretting it? Dude, you got a freaking Death Note. I don't give a crap about, your morals at this point. You've already jumped off, the deep edge.
In this one, there was no aspiration to become a detective. There was no... Light didn't really have any arc or aspiration whatsoever. He was a very blank character from the beginning.
He's really poorly written in the Netflix movie.
Because even in the anime, they give, I think, a good 10 minutes showing Light in class, bored as hell. He's really smart. They clearly demonstrate that, too. But, he's just bored, and there's no boredom. He's just kind of an outcast in this one, with a really weird opening montage scene, kind of. It wasn't even a montage, it was just a really weird segment. Very fever dream-esque, I guess I want to say.
I want to tell you, I'm L. You're the guy. You're L.
Well, that's not my real name, but I'm sure you're painfully aware of that.
He went from being calm and composed for one, quarter of the movie, to the other half just being insane and manic. And I feel that, it was completely lost. Any, kind of significance that L had was totally just tossed out the window by the halfway mark. The thing that made L kind of L was that he had these weird quirks to him. They weren't, super pronounced like they did in this one, where, he's just digging into the candy dish and just making a mess. He was calmly composed, kind of daintily eating a million sweets a day. And in this one, he's just a mess, kind of all the way through, it feels.
He was such a detailed character in the manga that he was always precise at everything he did, choosing to obfuscate his name, choosing not to reveal himself, or he was calculated all the way through. But in this one, he just doesn't get that same kind of vibe to me. He's got the intelligence.
Right.
Like, you feel like he's smart enough that he can actually, like, think this way through, but he doesn't feel composed. He doesn't feel exact. And that's where the excitement was the original Death Note. Both of these exact characters who knew exactly what they were doing were playing this game of chess of who can figure out who the other were.
Kira. I will hunt you down wherever you're hiding, and I will eliminate you. I am justice.
What I do is bring people to justice. But the form it takes is of their own making, a consequence of their actions, not mine. You're the one who flew into the sun. I'm just here to make sure you actually burn.
Well, if that's how it has to be.
So in the anime, Light's version of justice is, if you're bad, I'm gonna kill you off, basically. I'm gonna create this utopia without villains. L's version of justice is, I am going to catch people, and they're going to go onto trial. They're going to get their due process. What do you guys think? Was that expressed well in the Netflix movie?
Not at all. It's completely thrown out the window, like we were talking about, with the fact that while they are killing off criminals, it's lost to the tone of Mia and Light just being two hormonally charged teenagers that just want to, bang each other.
Yep.
We don't even get to see L's version of justice. We just know that he's on a task force and he's a super detective. There's no sense of who's right, who's wrong. There's no question of the morale from both sides,
See, I just don't think they touch on that very well, because
No,
it's
like a minute.
The one time you actually see them maybe killing off people for the sake of justice is a split montage while he's also making out with Mia, which completely ruins any sense of justice so much as it is just a turn on.
They weren't even making out. They were just
they were just banging
like rabbits. They
sign
went
another name, Light.
Yeah,
do it, Light.
It definitely was turning her on. I don't know about him.
Yeah.
So she was the real Kira in this sense,
Yeah. Again, another thing that's lost through the cracks of this adaptation is that what the sense of justice, the theme of justice that was present in the anime and manga, is just thrown out the window in exchange for this sadistic pleasure that they get from it instead.
Hey, kid. It's pronounced Ryuk.
I've been waiting for you. Oh?
Ryuk, who is the guy that sort of orchestrates all of this by dropping the Death Note and seeing what happens.
And he's barely in the movie.
He's also the best part of the movie, I think.
And yet, I feel like he's also the worst, in the sense that his character is not at all anything like the original. Ryuk is supposed to be, like, bored. He throws the Death Note because he's like, I'm sick and tired of doing this job. I want to see what happens when some human does it.
Right.
Like, they're going to pick it up, and I just want to see. I'm hands off. This is a show. I'm eating my Shinigami popcorn over here, and I just want to see what happens. This guy, this Ryuk in this movie feels like he's just like some overworldly demon that's like, I'm going to punish humanity, or whatever, pulling the strings, pulling that Ferris wheel off, just being too involved and having too much of a conscience. Hey man, you're ruining your relationship with Mia, so I'm going to give the Death Note to someone else. Really? You gave a that? I thought your whole point was being bored with humanity. Why are you caring about him now?
And it creates a plot hole. Because if this guy is like walking around giving people the Death Note and watching them murder people, then this thing should have been constantly happening where people are randomly dying. It's because in the original show that he's just bored and he throws his book to someone that we get Akira. A guy that's just murdering people, because all of a sudden a human has the powers of a god of death.
Yeah, to basically, weigh the scales of justice and whatsoever. And I don't mean to take it from you, but also, too, did anyone notice that there was, like, a warning in there already as well? Like, don't trust Ryuk, like, he's done this before. But yeah, we would have noticed if he had done that before,
Exactly. It would have been like, Kira would have just been, like, around for thousands of years. It creates an unnecessary plot hole.
Who does this guy think he is?
Why are you doing this to me? If you want me to kill her, just say so and I'll kill her!
She doesn't have that same dedication that the original does. So the original Misa is like head over here, heels over Light. Of course, Light doesn't give a crap because he doesn't actually love, I think.
No, he's just incapable of love.
He's just incapable of love. And Misa does a ton of things for the sake of Light.
Right.
And in this one, it almost seems like the other way around, as if Mia is manipulating some of the actions here.
I feel that since, I think we're kind of discovering as we're talking about this, since Light character was so flat and weak, everyone else's arc fell because of that too.
Yeah.
So because Light wasn't the manipulator that he is in the actual show, he wasn't manipulating Mia. You know, actually, he was such a pushover that it became vice versa. And whereas in the adaptation we were talking about, you know, he doesn't care about Mia or Misa whatsoever. She's just a means to an end. You know, she's head over heels for him, but he's like, you know, whatever. How can I use you to get L? How can I use you to win, basically, this game? And this was just completely... She was pulling the gun when he was too afraid to do so.
Yeah.
Right, in the original, she is like a fangirl.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, I can use you as a pawn. And in this one, she's just sort of around. He's like, hey, if I show you my Death Note, will you like me?
And
that's
works.
totally not Light.
Yeah, no.
That's the first part of the movie where I saw things were starting to go wrong, is when instead of Light keeping all this a secret, he's like, let me show you my Death Note. There's one quick thing that I want to touch on before we start wrapping things up, and that's the music, which I thought was really freaking distracting. Like all of the best, like all the moments, any part of the movie that they could have had at least some semblance of emotional weight just got sucked out by this terrible song choice.
Yeah.
Like who DJ'd this? Like someone's dad? Like
it was very kind of almost back to what you were talking about in the beginning. It was very 80s, 90s harkening in a sense, like pop electrica punk in a sense, in a tiny aspect of it. And I feel like they tried to give a nod back with the dad's ringtone. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a nod to kind of like the generic doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
You know, but even so, the music choice was very off. Everything was tone deaf in a sense, too.
Right.
It never had a true direction of which way it wanted to go.
And you know what else disappointed me about the music? In the anime, when he's like writing in the Death Note, they have like symphony music, like it's really epic, like he's yeah, exactly. And that was sorely missing.
Yes, because you know you're just kind of watching this chaos happen. He's got the power to do this, and you got this crazy symphony happening as everyone's just having heart attacks and dying at his whim. There was never that instance of that. Every death was so over the top that it was to the point of comical, Final Destination-esque. Since it is still a movie in the actual definition sense, I give it a 2 out of 10. It's very tone deaf. It doesn't know what it wants to be at what specific time, and the things that it does choose to be are completely wrong from the psychological cat and mouse game that it's supposed to be originally.
I think this movie had a lot of missed opportunities, and though it tried to cherry pick the best out of the series, it just fell flat because it tried very hard to be many different other things and ended up being none of them and poorly executed what it had in front of it. So I would also give it a 2 out of 10. It's just disappointing and doesn't even entertain people who are new to the Death Note franchise.
I'd give it a 2 out of 10 as well, just based on like how poor the pacing is, how poor the story is, how poorly developed it and everything is. But if you're a fan of Death Note, like you're a true fan coming in it, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to see this American anime adaptation of Death Note, it's a 0. It's not worth your time. Yeah. It is just so far gone.
Yeah, from a fan's perspective, it's definitely not even worth touching. It'll just frustrate you the entire way through.
You think you're better than me, but you're just trying to kill Kira.
I'll show the world what happens when you cross me.